I'm Deidre Malone, and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I am so excited to have in the studio with me today someone that I have watched grow up politically, and she is Miska Clay Bibbs. She is the chairwoman of the Shelby County Commission, but that's not all she's done. Let me just tell you a little bit about Miska before we start our conversation, our dialogue. She was elected in August of 2022, representing District 11 on the Shelby County Commission. During her first year on the Shelby County Commission, she served as pro tem of the commission. Now, that's unheard of. Let me just say that. You got to be there a minute before you can be elected pro tem. But not her. Okay, so excited about that. She previously served on the Memphis and Shelby County School Board of Education for 8 years, where she served as chair of the board at least twice in those 8 years. And so today she is a busy woman running Shelby County Commission. But I want to tell you something else about her. She's a community activist too. She is a part of the Shelby County Links. She is a member of the greatest sorority in this country, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She is my Sarah. But the most important job she has, I think, she has plenty of jobs, is that she's the mother of her son, Langston, who attends Tennessee State University. I'm not going to hold that against him as a Jackson State University alum. But Chairwoman Clay Bibbs, welcome to Dialogue with Deidre.
I am so excited to be here for so many reasons. First, let me say this because, and I'm gonna push you a little bit. It's not Shelby County Links. You know, it's River City.
Oh, I'm so sorry. And I was a River City Link. Yes. I am so sorry. Links, please forgive me. Specifically, River City Links. Yes.
Although we love all of our Links chapter, but I definitely.
But you gotta get it right.
I had to push you on that.
I know. I'm glad you did. I'm so glad.
You would have got a phone call.
Oh. Gail Jones Carson, yes. Beverly Robertson,
Absolutely.
The folks that I came in with would have
yes.
called me.
Absolutely.
So how's it going though? You loving it?
On certain days I say I'm living the dream, and then other days I'm like, whoo, here we go. I am loving the work of community. I think that's the main thing about it. There are a lot of moving parts. As you know, today is Monday's commission meeting, and we're also smack dab in the middle of this budget. So I've had so many calls. That's why when I texted you earlier, I was like, okay, like I'm going to be here. But it's been wild, literally since 8 o'clock this morning, because today is an official budget meeting. But I think this is the work. This is really why it's so important to me. When I decided to run for county commission, it was honestly having I chaired the Shelby County, well then Shelby County, now Memphis Shelby County School Board through COVID, and seeing how much people depended on the school system for all of the things.
Yes.
And I realized somewhere along the way the infrastructure is broken. We have got to look at how we're doing just our community agencies differently, how we look at supporting community in a different way. And, of course, the things that I care about, we're all on the commission side. Because people often say what city council versus county commission, and understanding the difference of different governments as a dual government city. But county commission is education, it's our public health system, and it is our justice system. Those are the three things that I realized during COVID, that how so many people just expected for schools to solve in ways in which I realized, no, we have some work to do.
Well, I'm so glad that you decided to make that jump and run for Shelby County Commission, because I remember, I ran for school board and didn't win in my district. Laura Jobe won that seat. But I remember Shep Wilburn calling me and saying, if you really care about education, Deidre, you'll think about the Shelby County Commission because of the funding piece, because of the justice piece, and because of also the healthcare piece.
All of the things. And I was thinking that, but it wasn't until I really got there and I was, oh yeah, okay, this is the work. Definitely love my school board days. I still really work in those communities. So, the other day I realized I kind of missed children's. So I went to a couple schools, and shout out to all of the schools that allowed me to come. Did a couple keynotes.
Oh, good.
Circuit. Yeah. So it felt really good to be able to support schools in Portland. And it's not just the children, it's the parents, it's the teachers, it's the administration. they know that they can still call me. So that is definitely what I'm rooted in and why I show up every day on the commission.
So what's the big difference, though, between the two legislative bodies, having served 8 years on the school board and now you're leading the commission? What's the big difference? Because the budgets are now, back when I was on the commission, it wasn't $1 billion budget.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So now you've worked with two entities that have like $1 billion budgets. What's the difference?
Honestly, it is the makeup and focus. On the school board side, as the 9 school board members, you have 1 employee, and that is the superintendent. So you have to govern differently around through policy in a different way, and you have to kind of hold the work accountable via policy. And it's also more immediate needs that you answer on the school board side. On the county commission side, we're definitely dealing with more long-term issues. So you're really looking at how do you fund this, what's the priority, having more partnership conversations with the other electeds around it. So that's the difference. So, you have to work in partnership with the county mayor. You have to work in partnership with your county, the sheriff. You have to work in partnership with all of the other electeds in order to move the work forward. On the school board side, it literally is kind of that conversation with you and the superintendent, and policy drives the work. County commission, we can put money towards it.
Do you think that it's different or more difficult on the county commission only because there's so many elected officials that you have to deal with? They are duly elected like you are, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for that budget and their budget.
Absolutely. I will say for me, I find it less stressful in working with the other electeds because I kind of coined myself as a connector and someone who likes to bring out the real clear topics because I like for people to be able to move forward on the same page. Yeah. And the other side of that, and if we're not on the same page, I like to know the why as to why we're not, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. I think on school board side is such like immediate needs, in that if you don't have the dollars to answer those immediate needs, it becomes more stressful because you're constantly thinking about how do we get there. Collecting and moving as a collective on the commission, I think, and not just us as a body, but bringing those other electeds who are responsible for the work is a different conversation because they want to win too. And so it's easier to negotiate.
What I always found difficult when I was on the commission, Chair Clay Bibbs, is, making sure that there's enough revenue. Something like my first few years, I didn't sleep well at night thinking about, are we going to have a property tax increase? And how is that going to affect our seniors? And your hands are pretty tied when it comes to, new revenue stream opportunities. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I think going through the budget cycle last year was where it kind of really all hit home because we were really trying to figure out how to increase wheel tax in a way in which they could help with a lot of the capital improvements that we need. And because it's Regional 1, it's schools, and now, just in case if you've missed anything in the news, people are telling us we need to build a new jail. So all of those things are happening, and you don't want to tell your citizens, hey, your property tax is going to increase. But at the same time, figuring out, well, where does the money come from? And the wheel tax, we were able to move it forward, not necessarily at the number that the mayor originally proposed, but at a number that I think is comfortable. But quite honestly, there is not ever enough to where we are now because those projects cost. You look at when people are kind of throwing around estimates for a new jail being around $1 billion. Then you think about Regional 1, an estimate of around $1 billion. Then you think about if you really are going to overhaul facilities for the schools, that number, deferred maintenance right now is about like $700 million.
That's right.
Just in deferred maintenance. Then we are, having to build 2 new schools. One, because the state is forcing us to build one. And I do want to make it very clear because some people kind of forget that point. They forget that people are out here, we're just building schools just because. No, the state has told us we're taking this land back. We're taking this property back. So if the state is coming in, taking something back, we still have to take care of children. Right. So we're building that new Cordova East School that's on the other side of Shelby Farms to relieve all of that tension around Germantown. Then the Fraser community getting a brand new school because that is something they've been promised for years around building a brand new high school for them. And that's just 2 schools. The reality of it, when you look at truly what a strong infrastructure plan looks at or should look like for Memphis Shelby County schools, we have some real work to do. And I'm saying that to say one of my proudest moments is as a school board member, I was able to get 2 brand new schools built in my community. And my communities were not communities that people thought about investing in. And I was like, well,
hello.
We're going to do the work of it. But that meant also consolidating. That meant closing. That meant looking at school buildings differently. And for those of our listening public who has not seen the brand new Alcee Elementary and the brand new Parkway Village Elementary, those buildings are the first 21st century tech buildings in the state of Tennessee for elementary school kids. And that took a lot of work. That was community, that was educators, and also residents of both of those communities coming together saying, we deserve this investment. Now, that can happen across Shelby County, but you have to have a plan, and you got to have the money to support the plan.
And I know the school system is under the past interim superintendent. They were working on that, and my hope is that the current superintendent will continue that around infrastructure.
She is.
Okay.
I sit on a steering committee around infrastructure, so she is. They are probably about, I would say, 60% through.
Good.
And then they're working on the next set of numbers to come back, and she has a goal of late fall to bring that to the commission. And my biggest hope is that whatever plan is brought, not only as a commission, but as a community, we buy into it.
Yes.
I mean, because that's the key. It's difficult to be in conversations about doing things that are great for kids, money-wise, as a commission, and also support-wise from the school board if you have people saying, don't touch my building.
Right. And I mean, I was at the school board meeting Tuesday night, and someone came and talked about a school in Binghamton potentially being closed. And, I went to school there, and please don't close the building. Those are tough conversations with alumni.
Yes.
But if there is an opportunity to repurpose that building for something else, it's still good real estate and somebody might want to buy it. There are opportunities there.
It has to be more of a global conversation than it just a school board conversation. And I think now being on the commission side is really what I push quite often. And it can't just be all of these silos talking about the work. It has to be the city, it has to be the county, it has to be the school board, and it also has to be our nonprofit community and our private
sector, absolutely.
About it, because that's the only way we're going to change what the investments look like.
You said something earlier about the state pushing for these new schools. I think it's ironic, and I can say this and you don't have to respond, but from my time on the commission, when we were looking at new potential revenue streams that would not affect like every person in our community, and the state pushed back. I mean, because the state has to approve any new revenue streams for legislative bodies. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. But you don't have to say anything. I'm not elected, so I can say that. But that's ridiculous, especially when you only have like a handful of, opportunities to collect revenue. They ought to loosen up and allow you all to explore different revenue stream opportunities that don't affect everybody. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Okay? We'll move on because you're elected.
Yes.
Okay? What made you decide, though, to run for Shelby County Commission?
It definitely was the COVID situation, but I think I was more so pushed around my predecessor, Eddie Jones.
Yes.
We spent a lot of time together talking about schools and new bills because I was always, of course, talking to him around, like, how do we pay for this? How do we get there? Let's make sure this happens. And I think in that conversation, of course, he was term limited, but as people really were talking about, like, what the field was going to be like, for me, it was more so around, but who has a skill set?
Exactly.
Who's going to show up to really understand these conversations in a different way? So where I probably was thinking that 2020 in particular, was like kind of going to be it for me because that's the year that my son graduated from high school, and I was kind of good on like all of this. I didn't plan on like even running for re-election for school board in 2020, but we were in COVID, and there was just no way that I felt like I could, in my heart, around like walking away at that point. And I was currently chair, and knowing that I probably needed to come back to be able to continue the work to get us over that hump. So 2020 was pivotal for me in not just school board, but also with the commission, because I knew that time period was coming up as well. So really just thinking it through around like, what do I want for the community that I live in? One of the things that I, pride myself on is the fact that I represent communities in which I grew up in.
Yes.
And for me, that's a huge benefit because I can remember when. And I know that I think about it as, I look at it as, what do I want it to be now?
Yeah, that's important. So I have to mention that Chair Clay Bibbs is the second African-American woman to lead the Shelby County Commission. We're not going to talk about who the first was.
You, of course.
But don't you feel, though, like I felt, Chair, that it's an added pressure, an added weight on your shoulders? Because I remember thinking about the women who are going to come behind me. I have to do this well because everybody's watching. And if I don't do this well, there won't be a Miska Clay Bibbs that can lead this body. You feel that weight? I felt it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for how you served in a way, although it took us 15 years later.
I cannot believe it took that long
for it to happen.
But so glad it did.
But because you did it well, at least within this time, the history of it was not such that I can use it to like help me fight for it. I think looking at it as something that I am creating a path for others has really been my thought around making sure how I show up in meetings, make sure how I, show up just across the whole community about why this is important. But then the other aspect of it, we are a predominantly woman body.
Yes.
So that's a whole other different type of pressure. And I think about all of those things around how we move forward. It won't ever be perfect per se because it's, we're elected officials. You can't control what people say and do, but at least giving a strong foundation around what it can look like in order for us to build upon. I am looking forward to at some point during the time that we're on the commission, I know for a fact we should have more women to chair the body. So I know that will happen. But I think more importantly now, I look at it as the idea around next generation wise, what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I think that's important to build that pipeline. That's so important when you think about, I think sometimes as women, we think we shouldn't run, that we don't have the ability to make those important decisions, but we do.
We absolutely
we're multitaskers. We do it well.
We absolutely should. And I think the other thing that I attempt to do, not only as this chair, but just in general as being elected now at this point for 10 years, is to make sure that I create real conversations for other young women, for other, I'm going to say it, Black women who are thinking about running, and giving them the full picture of it, and also being at least open enough to tell them these are the sacrifices you will have to make. I think I've had people that I could talk to, such as you or Gail, and Patrice Robinson, all of the people who were sitting in seats that I could at least have the conversation with. Oftentimes, Gen Xers, I'll use this, we are not always as caring in how we approach mentoring and thinking about, and there are some of us who do, but I think it's always that balance, because then you have millennials that don't even want to ask.
And when they do ask, because some have asked me, I'm like, let me tell you what you have to weigh.
Correct.
And they're like, we're going to do this. I'm like, okay.
And then it doesn't always turn out how they think it's going to turn out.
Exactly.
And for me, it's important to have those real conversations and build bridges, and also just build a coalition, because I, am doing this started doing it as a single mom, was very clear on before I said yes to any of it. I had to have that conversation with Langston. He was in 6th grade. He didn't know what he was saying yes to. But on the flip side of that, he's grown up with me through this because there have been times when he's been targeted. Yes. And I've had to really like show up in a different way for him because of that. And now I think those are the real conversations I don't think that people often have around, like, it's not just you that's elected.
It's your family.
It's your family. Yeah. And thank God I've had like a really strong support system that has helped me walk through that with him and then with me, and understanding like how to move that, because I couldn't stop being a mom.
No.
I couldn't stop, he's a, student athlete. At the time, I couldn't stop going to games. I couldn't stop doing all of the things that he was used to me doing. So it means, like, how do you balance all of that? How do you make that happen? I missed some things, but thank God he is a rising senior at Tennessee State. Now, we're not going to talk about that because, yes, I know you're Jackson State.
But I had a son that went to Tennessee State. We're not going to talk about that. His dad and I both were like, what is wrong with you? Okay? Yeah.
It happens.
It does.
And then, like, originally, because, I thought, hey, you going to Hampton.
Right.
So, look, then I just said, as long as it's an HBCU.
Exactly.
That's what matters. But you need support systems through all of that. You need support systems through, there are some really hard days. Yeah. And you need a support system, or just at least a couple people you can call on and say, hey, this is what's happening. Does this make sense to you? How do I navigate that? Right. I'm very thankful because I think we had a conversation many years ago. And if I haven't said it to you at any other point, thank you for that, because it also changed my long game. Yeah. And I will be very honest around, in that conversation, sometimes you can think so much, like right now, you forget that there is a long game. And there's always a long game when you think about being elected. And there's a long game when you think about serving community. There's a long game when you think about resources. So all of it. And I think without those types of support systems, even we can disagree, because we haven't always agreed on everything. But one thing I pride myself in, if you call me, I'll say, well, now this is where I am. You're
going to always tell me the truth. And that's all you can ask for. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had close friends when I was on the commission who would call me about things, and I would say, I'm not there. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you why. And they're like, okay, as long as you tell me why, I'm good with it, because you're the elected official. It's your decision. And my friends would tell me all the time, well, Dee, I see your point of view, because you're thinking long term, right? Mm-hmm. So I completely get it. But you said something, and I just want to say, sons are, I now have granddaughters, but sons are so protective of their moms. And so I know being an elected official, I mean, I would have my boys say, who do I need to go see? Nobody.
Oh, my God. Now, it's so funny now because we're so far from this point in time. But, he's a Gen Zer. And Gen Zers spending all their time on social media. The first time someone tweeted something negative about me, he was about to do a Twitter war. Yes. And I literally had to say, give me your phone.
Exactly.
Because we're not about to do this.
I know.
And because in their world, that's how you take care of it.
That's it.
In the reality of it, I said, I don't care about that.
No.
I said, because it's not going to change how I'm showing up every day.
Exactly.
And then so to see him now grow up through that, I think he probably may have been a 11th grader or going a rising senior in that moment. And I was like, they ain't really talking.
And they don't know me.
Right.
They don't know me.
Yeah.
You know your mom. You know I'm about doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. But the sons are just amazing. Okay. We only have a short window because I know you've got to get out of here. But I want to ask you, big budget season, what do you think the priorities are?
Our priorities are, quite honestly, the mayor presented something about giving a 6% raise to employees, which I do think they absolutely deserve. The employees deserve something. I think we have to be mindful of that. That means also changing the sheriff's budget in a different way. My biggest issue about that is making sure the sheriff and the mayor are on the same page about that, because when those two electeds are not on the same page, it doesn't make a great conversation for the whole community.
Exactly.
So I do know that's happening. And from there, I also think we have to be mindful, of course, going back to capital improvement, with Regional 1 on the table, as well as the whole conversations around truly having deferred maintenance dollars for schools. I think I'm not going to tackle the jail just yet, because we, as a commission, we did pass for a feasibility study to happen at the tune of about $250,000, and that work will be starting soon around. You can't just wake up and say, oh, I'm going to build a jail and it's going to be $1 billion with no work done previously.
Right.
Do you build currently where it's located? Do you build out, close around to where Jail East is? What are the things that need to happen in order for it not to cost as much, but also where it makes sense for moving forward into years forward? I think where they built currently right now, and it's a whole building that may need to be touched. Do you stay in the same location, and do you do it phase by phase? Like, what is all of that? That's the feasibility study. So that's going to kind of take care of the jail conversation for a minute. But then I know as commissioners, we want to make sure we're still doing things individually in our own separate communities.
Yes.
Because that's the reason why we ran as well, not only for the larger projects, but we for some of the smaller projects in each one of our districts. We have, of course, the community enhancement grants that a lot of people apply for. And right now, that dollar amount is only sitting at $100,000.
Okay.
Last year we had $200,000. We're trying to work it so that we can go back to $200,000 to be able to support our districts. But there's always that ebb and flow, because we're looking at this budget without the federal aid that was happening because of COVID. So that is a whole other cliff that you got to really look at and say, hey, you were able to do these things, but that money is no longer around. How do you make it work?
Well, I am so thankful that you're doing the work. Tough conversations, but you guys will make the right decisions. I'm gonna spend the last 5 minutes asking you some fun stuff. Okay,
good.
What is your favorite travel location for a weekend visit?
Weekend, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Longer time, Puerto Rico.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite movie?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I will say Coming to America.
I love Coming to America.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite musical artist?
Oh, now, for the people who really know and love me, no, music is my thing. I can't just say one.
Say two.
I will start with Michael Jackson and Prince.
Okay. I want you to ask Clay Perry about my playlist. He will have you cracking up.
Oh yeah, it probably is similar to mine. Like I can listen to country. I'm gonna listen to rap. I'm gonna listen to R&B. I'm gonna listen to a little bit of alternative. Yes. I mean, because that's all of the things.
I love Garth Brooks, but NWA. I
come
don't play
now,
with it now,
Jay-Z.
Yes, okay.
Right, come on. Yes.
Okay. Those were my questions for you. I am so glad you were able to come on Dialogue with Deidre.
I'm so excited that I was able to do it. This was fun. This wasn't a lot of high stress happening, so I appreciate it.
And look, anytime you want to come back, any projects you want to come talk to us about, we'd love to have you come back.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, thank you so much. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for joining Dialogue with Deidre. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well as our social media platforms. Thank you for being a part of the Carter Malone Network.